the bottom of the web page and selecting live streaming, which is the third icon from the left. For public comments and questions during the meeting, call 818-937-8100, which is on the screen. Please do not call in advance of the agenda item. May I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Brotman,
Here.
Devine,
Here.
Bisakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Agajanian.
Present.
And roll call for housing, please.
Authority Member Agajanian,
Present.
Brotman,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Parazian,
Here.
Chair Devine.
Here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jamian. Next item, please.
The agenda for the Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021 joint public meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority was posted on Tuesday, January 26, 2021 on the bulletin boards outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Would be community development regarding authorization to enter into servicing agreement between the City of Glendale and Glendale College Foundation for use of $1,309,000 in Measure S funds to implement and administer the Low-Income Student Rental Assistance Program. A, City Council motion authorizing execution of servicing agreement between the City of Glendale and Glendale College Foundation for the use of $1,309,000 in Measure S funds to implement and administer the Low-Income Student Rental Assistance Program. B would be resolution appropriation shifting $1,309,000 from Measure S Housing Fund Program to newly created Low-Income Student Rental Assistance Program.
Thank you. Mr. Golania.
Yes. Mayor Agajanian, members of City Council, Housing Authority, Chair Devine, members of the Housing Authority. At the your meeting of October 20th, council meeting of October 20th last year, staff presented a number of options for assisting lower income household using Measure S funds. Among those was this program, namely Low Income Student Rental Assistance Program, that was directed by council to staff to be established. And this report essentially is going to present that item. And I'm going to turn it over to Peter Zovak, our Assistant Community Development Director, to go over details of the servicing agreement with Glendale College Foundation. Peter, thank you.
Mr. Zovak, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
let's do
Madam
it.
Chair, members of the council, members of the Housing Authority, I will be presenting a very quick report on this request for authorization entering into a service agreement between the City of Glendale and Glendale Community College Foundation for use of the $1.309 million in Measure S funds to implement and administer the Low-Income Student Rental Assistance Program. For short, we are calling it LICERAP. With us today and joining us on the call from GCC, we have Andre Manukian, who's the program manager for the CARE office over at GCC. That's the Center for Assistance, Resources, and Educational Success. Once I make my presentation, I know there are a few things that Andre would like to comment on too regarding the report and the program. But to recap, the council-approved LICERAP program is an affordable housing program designed to provide rental assistance, housing assistance to low-income Glendale-based students who are living alone or with family, while also providing them supportive services such as education and employment support and skills. The program is proposed to be operated and administered by Glendale Community College via its Glendale College Foundation programming under its Fresh Success program. By partnering with the City of Glendale, the Fresh Success program will be expanded to provide housing support in the form of either emergency rental assistance or ongoing subsidized rent to participants of the program. This will allow both the City of Glendale and GCC to address the issue of housing insecurity and homelessness, which serves as a major educational barrier to individuals who are financially insecure. GCC will operate as the subcontractor for the LICERAP program, and they will leverage funding with its services that are being planned under the Fresh Success program. Staffing of the program will be provided and paid for solely by GCC and the Glendale College Foundation. So all of the city's funding will be going towards direct assistance in terms of housing subsidy payments. The salient points of the service agreement include the fact that the initial funding term for this LICE-RAP program is for up to 3 years. The city will be advancing funding in lump sum increments based upon applicant demand. Housing subsidies will be administered by GCC staff, and they can include as little as 1 day of assistance in the case of temporary homelessness, up to a maximum of 12 months of assistance, as long as the student continues to qualify and is enrolled at GCC and is enrolled in the Fresh Success program, and the housing assistance is needed. The housing assistance must be paid to the landlord or owner of the identified rental unit, and that unit must be located in Glendale. Either party may terminate the agreement by providing 30 days written notice to the other. Any unused or unencumbered funds shall be returned to the city upon expiration of the contract or termination of the agreement. And then representatives of the city will be monitoring performance under this agreement. We will be conducting training on the housing component of the program with GCC staff. We plan to conduct initial interviews or reviews of files for quality control before those files are funded. And then we will also be receiving monthly progress reports on the program from GCC. The estimated cost for the LICE-RAP program, again, is $1.309 million direct funding over the course of the 3-year term of the agreement. And we expect to be able to serve approximately 100 qualified applicants under this program. And with that, that's my report. I'll turn it over to Andre Manukian for any comments he would like to make.
Andre Manukian, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you so much, Peter, for summarizing the program pretty comprehensively. And I'll say from my end, what's exciting about this is bringing in all the different types of supportive services and making this a partnership with the city, the district, the Glendale College District, but also the broader Fresh Success program, which is being supported through the USDA and the Foundation for California Community Colleges as well. So this is an exciting partnership. Our president, Dr. Vire, and who's also our superintendent for the district, he couldn't make it today, but him and the Board of Trustees also have asked that I thank the City Council and all the dedicated staff in the city who helped develop this innovative program to address housing insecurity crisis faced among community college students. Them having discussed the LICE-RAP program in their previous meetings, Dr. Vire and the Board of Trustees are confident that the program will have long-lasting impact on both Glendale College students and the broader Glendale community. And so this program will not only expand the partnership between the city and the district, but it also address the needs of the most vulnerable populations residing in the city of Glendale. And Dr. Vire and the Board of Trustees appreciate the City Council's understanding and support of Glendale Community College as a key resource for the Jewel City. And I thank the City Council for approving this innovative initiative, which will ensure that the residents of the city, regardless of their socioeconomic status, have an opportunity to complete a college education, become job ready, attain a job, and contribute back to the city of Glendale. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andre Manukian. Next time when you join us, please make sure that you are not in dark. I'm having problem at least to see who you are, because I know you, but I can't figure out you are in dark and it's hard to say who you are. I mean, my question to Mr. Peter Zovak, okay, other than handing over $1,309,000 to Glendale Community College, is there any other cost associated with this to manage the program for the city?
There will be, Mr. Mayor, there are certainly going to be costs associated with the program as it relates to city staff that will be conducting the audits and the reviews of the program itself. We think it's going to be very limited. It's going to be myself and one other housing staffer so far have been identified that will handle that component of it. But, and then certainly as we send money over to GCC, there'll be some finance involvement, finance staff and forwarding that and wiring that funding. But the bulk of the program, I would say approximately 98% of it really is going to be given to the responsibility of GCC to be able to administer it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
there's no additional funding. We will absorb those costs as staff costs, but there's nothing more to be put to it.
So what I'm
Mr. Mayor.
trying to understand is, like, since whoever will handle this, so because of doing this beside other things which they are doing, it's not going to be overtime and other expenses associated with this. That's what I'm trying to understand.
No, as it's proposed right now, with the program being operated by GCC, this is a very program that could ramp up very quickly and be administered by GCC with very little oversight or a small amount of oversight by city staff. It's probably one of the easier programs that's been adopted recently to be able to implement. And again, it goes to the fact that GCC is running on a parallel path with their Fresh Success program and the ability to take those two funding sources and leverage it into one complete and comprehensive program on their side. If we were responsible for administering all of the program, we would be back to council looking for assistance with regards to staffing and things like that. But the fact that it's a partnership with GCC, they will be taking over a large chunk of the administration of it.
On our behalf, there's on page 6 of 49, it says here, either party may terminate the agreement. What will cause on our side to terminate the understanding, the agreement?
There could be a number of reasons for termination. If we don't feel that the program is being administered properly by the subcontractor, GCC, we could terminate the program. If we feel that the program is not fully subscribed as we thought that would be, we could then reduce the program and or terminate it. It simply requires a 30 days notice of the termination of the program.
Okay,
If
thank
we
you.
have other priorities that might come up within a year or two that might take precedent over this program, we would be looking at the possibility of a 30-day termination clause.
Thank you. Is there any other question from staff?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Najarian.
question for Mr. Garcia. We have some very close ties with the college. I was a former member of the Board of Trustees. I think Mr. Brotman may be still or is a former adjunct. I think Mr. Kasakian teaches there. Does this cause any problems for us participating or disclosing relationships?
Councilmember Najarian, with respect to conflict of interest issues, there is no conflict even if Councilmember Kasakian or Councilmember Brotman have sources of income. The conflict of interest statutes provide that does not create a source of income under the conflict of interest laws. However, disclosure is appropriate in that case. In addition to our disclosure ordinance, if any council member feels that they have an affiliation with the college, then they can make that disclosure as well.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I want to say that I have a previous relationship with the college as being a member of the Board of Trustees. And I have a sister-in-law who is currently employed by the college in the capacity as a counselor.
Mayor, I
Thank
do
you.
have, Mayor,
We have
If I
call.
might-
I have a call.
1 second. Let's see if anybody else wants to comment on this conflict issue.
Yes.
Brotman,
Yeah,
Councilmember Brotman.
Yes, I was, and I think technically am still considered an adjunct professor, but I haven't been teaching over the last 12 months, so I've not received any income from the college over that period of time. But I do hope at some point to return to teaching there. So that is the nature of my connection with the college. And apart from that, I would just say that I fully support this program, and I'm excited to see us collaborating in this way.
Thank you. Mr.
Mr.
Ksaki.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr.
thank you. And I did check with the city attorney prior to this item coming before us for the reasons that Mr. Najarian raised during this meeting. And he informed me and checked with the Fair Political Practices Commission. I do teach as an adjunct instructor a class on government and political science. It's an introduction to governance, and it is a source of income, but only for one course. And I continue to do so for as long as the college will have me as an instructor. However, as the city attorney stated, under the rules and guidelines of the Fair Political Practices Commission and even in ours, this does not prove to be a conflict for me to weigh in on. I will say that I think that this is a great program. I think it's absolutely necessary. And my question for Mr. Manoukian is how, I've had, as I was reviewing this report, I've had a few individuals ask me how they can hire some of the individuals that may receive the benefits of this program if they want to employ them. Who would they be able to contact to hire some of our students from Glendale College?
So thank you for that question. They would be able to contact either my office, the GCC Care Office, or our Career Center. One of the key components of this program is going to be job readiness and preparing them with job readiness skills. And so we hope that once they complete their certificate or English language acquisition, that there'll be a number of employers within the city that would be willing to hire these students.
Please pass along your contact information, information of the GCC Care Office, so we can pass it along to any individuals that may contact the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just, 1 second, I don't see Ms. Parazian on the screen, on my at least screen. I don't know if she has any question, since I don't see her, so I don't know how to reach her. Ms. Parazian, do you have any question,
Hi,
or I
Mr.
can go
Mayor.
to? I'm sorry.
Here. I have a comment. This
Yes.
is just
Please, go
really
ahead.
a great program. This is a really great program. So that is my comment. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Devine.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Zovac, Mr. Manoukian, could Glendale Community College have put this program together without the city?
My understanding is that they would be operating their Fresh Success program, but they wouldn't be able to be providing housing assistance under their normal circumstances. So this participation by the city helps fill that gap, and we can address all the needs of the insecurities that students are facing. There were many of them identified in a report that was conducted by GCC in 2009 in this survey. And so the Fresh Success program was designed to address nearly all of those, with the exception of housing. My understanding is that there was none of the funding that they identified for the Fresh Success program was able to address the housing component.
And as I understand, this is a unique program.
It is considered to be a unique partnership. There are a small number of agencies in junior colleges that are looking at this. A lot of the initial programs that have been set up have been based strictly on homeless students, whereas this is will serve homeless students and those in permanent housing but need financial support to be able to stay in there.
Okay. Mr. Manoukian, did you want to add anything?
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. Just really quickly, in addition to what Peter just said, we have found that at least 14% of the students experience housing insecurity over the last year, and that was prior to COVID. And so if we are interested in addressing job readiness and ensuring that the students are able to complete their education to contribute back to the city, housing is a critical component. It wouldn't be possible to address that without the city support. The financial sources that the college has would not allow for that. But the Fresh Success program, which is funded through the USDA, allows for the district to look for outside funding like city councils. And what's great about this is even though it wouldn't be possible to do it with the city, the USDA will help fund some of the staffing costs on the back end for the district. And so this partnership really allows us to expand the program to a level that we wouldn't be able to do without the city.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, we get a lot of pushback about Measure S, and you know, having passed that measure, what do we do with the money? What are we using the money for? And I think this is a perfect example of the good use and the good work that the Measure S funding is going to. You know, we can't afford for the next generation of leaders to lose access to higher education or to be forced off their path to a degree. So I think this is a very critical time. We're developing future leaders for our community, as you said, for the workforce, for government, and we just can't let this pandemic slow down our progress. So I am in full support of the program, and I'm happy that we're able to collaborate in this way.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mayor.
We have phone calls. Yes. Let's go
I
to
have
our
a
call.
question.
Yes, Ms. Parazian.
Okay.
Ms. Parazian.
So I have a question. Do the other cities, like say Pasadena City and LA City, they have LA City College or Pasadena City College, do they have the similar program?
So a number of colleges are now going to be signing up to run the Fresh Success program, but it would not be, I believe, as innovative as the Glendale College one because it has the full wraparound services that not only address food and utilities, but also bring in the housing component. And we're bringing in pieces of bringing in educational materials, laptops, books for students, everything that the student needs to stay in school. And PCC, none of the LA colleges are going to have a Fresh Success that has such a comprehensive wraparound service involved.
Thank you. We have
Thank
phone
you so
call.
much.
Thank you. We go to our caller, I guess, or callers.
Herbert Milano, you're live. Herbert, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Hello, Mayor Agajanian and members of the City Council and Housing Authority. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfect.
Very well. I'd like to, first of all, commend everyone with regard to this tackling the significant problem of homelessness of college students. It has been a problem that has been out of the radar for many, many people who are unaware that there is a significant number of students who oftentimes are sleeping in the park, are sleeping at the college campuses, are rooming or doing couch surfing. And even I remember during the days that I was teaching at the college level, I had some students, one student came in wet in the morning because he was sleeping in the park and the sprinklers went on. So I'm glad that you guys are taking really active action towards it. But I would like to present two ideas for you. The first one is that in the past, every year, there has been a conference by USC. It's called the Caston Multifamily Forecast Program. And it's a conference attended by housing providers and individuals in government. And I don't recall anyone from the city of Glendale ever participating or attending this significant conference of multifamily housing. And I think once that the problems of COVID are overcome, that the city council members and members of the Housing Authority can participate and actively look at the data and the trends that are pretty significant in making decisions about housing. It also allows me to give you my take on how strategic planning should work on issues such as this one. And the key parameters that perhaps the City Council and the Housing Authority should look at. So here are the ones that I have, given my little preparation I had for this issue today. How many students per year are you expected to assist with this program every year? What is the average assistance expected to be given through these funds to the students? if the students are not residents of Glendale, obviously, if they're homeless, who are they residents of? How do we determine that we're not simply expanding a program to the general population of the greater Los Angeles area? College education is more generalized. It cannot be simply fixed to students who are, as I understand it, from the city of Glendale. So how would they apply to students from other cities who want to come in and basically partake of this program if they're not residents of Glendale? More questions. How do we define who is homeless and how have they been identified and how do we define them in the future? Are the funding going to be given to Glendale housing providers, or is that going to be given in general to anyone in the areas that are serviced by Glendale Community College? What about the significant high dropout rate that we have of college students? I know Glendale Community College has a really good program, but most community colleges have students that sometimes take 4, 5, 6 years to complete a program. Are these housing assistance programs going to be prolonged for that many years? Or how is it going to be measured with regard to inducing these students to stay and finish within the normal 2-year span that is usually presented? Are they going to be given to part-time students or only full-time students given a certain number of units? So there are a lot of questions that I can come up with, and probably even more so with regard to how this program should be measured and what are the expectations to be made, and how often is the reporting going to be done with regard to this program? Are the costs with regard to running the program going to be similar to what it is for Section 8 and other housing programs, which is roughly 20% of the overall cost going into bureaucracy? So I don't know if you have those questions right now. All I'm saying is that there are the significant questions regarding performance, objectives, measurements, and the frequency with which those measurements should be brought up for your evaluation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller, please, if there is.
Mayor, that was the last caller.
Okay, thank you. All right, what's next now?
We need a motion.
Okay, is there,
Well,
yes, Mr.
on this
Brock?
item, but before I do that, I think probably Mr. Zovac could answer a number of those questions. I don't know if you want to do that, but I do know that you have rules in this program that specify that the students need to be Glendale residents, and that the housing that they're being supported in has to be located within Glendale. And I know that there are rules within the Glendale College program, the Fresh Success, is it? Or Fresh Success program that requires a certain grade point average so that they are progressing through their coursework. So I think some of the things that Mr. Milano asked, you could probably answer right here and now if that's appropriate.
Mr. Zovac?
Yes, some of the questions, as Councilmember Brotman stated, are addressed in the report. It is up to a maximum 12-month program. Mr. Milano had mentioned those students that might be in the program or in GCC for 3 or 4 years. It wouldn't be applicable to them. It would only be up to 12 months that they'd be able to have eligibility on the program. So there is a maximum period on that. In terms of, I heard the question of how much the program would cost. He had mentioned a 20%. He referenced Section 8, which has a 20% cap. That's an admin cap that exists in Section 8 and other federal programs. As we had mentioned earlier, this funding that we are approving today, this $1.3 million, is all going towards direct housing assistance. There is no budget. There is no administration charges that would be charged to that 1.3. That's all being provided by GCC under their Fresh Success programming. We estimate to be able to assist 100 students during the 3-year program. The question came up as to if someone is considered homeless, how do you determine that they are homeless per Glendale? The city has its own continuum of care program for homeless services, and we would be using their definition that they utilize to determine whether or not a person is considered homeless in Glendale or homeless from another city that just happened to be in Glendale. So we'll be working with them to define that scenario and be able to apply it under our program here.
And also, I have to add that applicants, it says in the body of the report, must be a resident of the city of Glendale.
Correct.
Okay,
And as stated earlier, the housing that is eventually subsidized must be within the city of Glendale.
all right. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move the item.
Is there a second?
Mayor.
Ms. Devine
Sure, I'll second.
seconded, I guess. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brotman,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian. Najarian, Councilmember Najarian.
Mr. Najarian, I don't see him here, but.
leave the meeting. I'm trying to.
Oh,
Oh, there is.
Can you hear me?
yes, yes.
Yes.
And he says yes.
Yes. Mayor Agajanian.
Yes, not for housing. Ms.
That-
Devine,
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
the items were for council approval only.
only?
Yeah.
Okay, for council approval only, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, what's next?
Next would be adjournment. For
Do
council,
I- For council, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn for council.
Yeah, okay. it's-
Second.
All right, roll call.
Contingent for
I mean,
the
for Housing Authority.
Second.
All right. So we
We're adjourned for that
We are
meeting, yes, sir.
adjourned?
for adjourn for city council at 3:55 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now call the council closed session to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brotman,
Here.
Devine,
Here.
Kasakian.